Now let's move on to our interview here with Dr. John Hammond. Actually, Dr. John Hammond just said that he has an interesting viper cobra story to share. So I'm going to ask him that story. But before we do so, we got a message here from Brett. Brett sent a story saying the story of Poncho is an interesting one. I do not know if you heard about Poncho before, Dr. John. It says the man saved a crocodile and then it let him swim with it for 20 years. I obviously would never trust a croc, but that story intrigued me. I think that there's definitely something deeper with the animal kingdom that we will one day get to experience in heaven to its fullest. Isn't that amazing? I think it's amazing. Look, I do not know if Poncho is the man or the crocodile. I would assume it's the crocodile, but what a great story. Yes, I wouldn't trust. I know some stories of people that raise wild animals, and for many, many years, these wild animals were very docile until they weren't anymore, which is a bit scary. Dr. John, what is your story about cobras and vipers that you were sharing with us earlier?
Well, my parents were missionaries, and we flew to Penang in Malaya, as it was then, in 1949. And the very first morning, my father stepped out the back door barefoot and trod on the back of a 4-meter Hammond king cobra. He slammed the door so quickly he nearly left his foot outside, and he said to my mother, "Don't unpack. We arrived last night and we're going on a plane tonight back to Singapore and then back to Sydney because we've got 3 small boys. I was only 4. And he was shaken. We sat down and had breakfast, and then he said, "I'll tell you what, we're going to test God." And he said, "I'm going to pray. I'm going to open my Bible without looking and just put my thumb in anywhere. And if there is not a direct message from God, we'll go home," which is a pretty risky thing to do. So he prayed, opened his Bible, and it fell on Luke 10:19, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." And he said to Mum, "I think we have to stay." We stayed there for nearly 12 years. We killed 12 cobras in the bathroom alone. Wow. Lived through the communist terrorist emergency, and God protected us all the way.
Amazing.
The power of that text sustained us for all those years.
Wow.
It was unarguable.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
What a great story. Dr. John, thank you so much for coming in. Thanks for sharing this incredible story. Oh, Brad just clarified Poncho was the croc. Thanks for clarifying. Brett. So, Dr. John, I heard that you have an involvement with Asian Aid that goes quite a while back now. Can you tell us a little bit about what is Asian Aid and what is so special about it for you?
Asian Aid has been a part of our life for 57 years, just after we got married. It was a very small organisation working out of a container in a garage. Started by a lady called Maisie Fook and assisted by Helen Eager. Helen Eager is still living the life, a remarkable person. Maisie has gone. And right from the start, it has been a child-focused organisation. It started in response to the number of orphans in Korea after the Korean War in the form of clothing and blankets. And from that, it has grown into a wonderful organisation. And we've been contributing to that for many years. And then I was drawn into it about 2011. They approached me. I just retired. If I would join the board. So I was on the board for 9 years. After 9 years, you have to leave the board. So they don't get old and dusty. They bring in new people all the time.
In the fresh blood.
So I did my 9 years, and for 6 of those years I was chairman of the board.
Wow. So this is amazing. I didn't know that the origins of Asian aid went back to 1950s to the war in Korea and to support the children there. That is absolutely fascinating to me. And whenever I think about Asian aid, I think of some really groundbreaking, smart, and caring initiatives. One that I cannot forget. We remember, producer Shell. We spoke about there's the day care and they have night care. That is because they identified that there's a number of women in Asia that unfortunately have, particularly in Thailand and Cambodia, that in order to survive, they have to resort to prostitution, and often they would take their children with them because they don't have anyone left to take them. So Asian Aid came up with this project called the night care, where children could actually go to a place where they would be safe, they would be cared for. I think what an amazing ministry. So tell us a little bit about Dr. John. Have you ever visited any of the projects of Asian Aid before? And what are some of the stories that you have from Asian Aid that you carry with you?
Our main work is in India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, and highly populated countries. My wife has always had an interest in how women are taken care of, and one of the major problems in Nepal was uterine prolapse. And
what is that?
It's when your uterus starts to protrude, and it's very common after childbirth. And when a woman suffers from a prolapse, they become an outcast within their own family. They have to live in a different spot, and they still have to work and cook, but they're an outcast, and it's a relatively simple operation. And we do have a hospital in Kathmandu, and we have a wonderful young doctor, Angela Basnett, and her family. They have worked with Asian Aid and
Aussies?
No, she's Nepalese.
She's Nepalese. Wow.
And very, very smart. And she is the CEO of the hospital, medical director of our hospital there. And the operation is fairly simple. And the look of joy when we went there, my wife came with me, and she was embraced by these ladies who had lived a hideous existence until this operation, and then they go home restored.
Amazing.
And it's a miracle firsthand. And
yes, indeed.
We went way up into the Himalayas and remote villages, and there were these women who were being interviewed, and they were taken to Kathmandu, given the operation, and it is absolutely life-transforming. And we've got a school in Pokhara, and which is up in the highlands, and a lot of girls there have been rescued from terribly abusive situations because their mothers have been involved in prostitution, and they're after them as well. So our work in Nepal is quite distinct. In India, we have thousands of students in school that we supported, and I think that's what drew me into India and to Asian Aid on the board, because my background is in education. And on the board, we've got some very talented people who understand development and financial needs. My forte was to identify those students that we were supporting who came from very poor families, and when they were put in the school, they were dumped in the bottom class because they were lower class. Unfortunately, class distinction is still strong in the Orient, particularly in a place like India. And so they had no one to stand up for them. And because I came through as a primary teacher and a high school teacher and a school administrator. My last job was National Director of Adventist Schools in Australia. I was able to spot these kids and use leverage. And so my work was a lot of it involving schools, school administration. As I soon discovered, when it came to running a school, they couldn't pull the wool over my eyes terribly quickly. And so I just love visiting the schools. Children are children. We have a couple of remarkable schools. There's a blind school and a place called Bobley. And I was there on sports day. They were playing cricket. And amazing me, they had these wicker balls with a little bell inside, and they could hear it coming. And
they can hit it with a bat and everything.
They can hit it with a bat.
Wow.
And then run, and sometimes in the wrong direction.
Unbelievable.
And then I saw the shot put. When a heavy iron ball landed at my feet, I thought I'd better stick to watching the cricket. And then we have a deaf school, and that's Colligal. And quite remarkable, it seems to be there's a certain zone there where there is a lot of hereditary deafness. And running a deaf school where they hear nothing, and the way they learn is rather off-putting first time you go and you hear them singing. So it is a strange wailing, but they're singing and they're happy and they are singing with their hands and singing with their voices. And these people come from absolutely poverty-stricken backgrounds, and they are so happy. The food is very basic. And the poor little kids, they start about 5:30 in the morning and they're exhausted by night time, but they are so happy because they are being provided with an education. In Australia here, you have to drive your kids to school and flog them down the road to go to school in the morning. These children just can't wait to get there.
Amazing. And Dr. John, this is like what you're sharing with me is really some amazing, because oftentimes you think children in poverty, in lower castes in India that are blind or they're deaf, these are probably the most forgotten of the forgottens in the world, and yet Asian Aid is there to care for them. What an incredible ministry this is.
I can remember going to a school way up near the Bhutan border. It was a boarding school, and these poor little children, I mean, they're there from babyhood. And this little boy, I was speaking and waiting for my turn, and he comes up and he just crawls up onto my lap. All he wanted was a cuddle. And it just about broke me. I'm the soppiest grandpa in the whole world. So he sat there and I spoke, sitting down, and he went to sleep. It made me realize that Asian Aid does a fantastic job. Yeah. It's not just a charity organisation. We run on very low overheads. Some charity organisations have high percentages. They stay in top hotels when they visit. Not Asian Aid. We have a basic philosophy of all the money that comes in, as much as possible, has got to go back out. So our overheads are pretty low, and enables us to get into the orphanages. It's a bit difficult sometimes in places like India, where you can be deported if they suspect you are proselytizing and preaching.
Yeah, preaching to them.
And so you've got to be very careful. And I've been in a hostage situation in Bangladesh, up in the hill country.
But I was just going to ask you this one thing, Dr. John. Save the hostage story for our next segment. I'd love to hear from that. But we have to move on with our time here. But I just want to say this. If you have been touched by Dr. John's stories in Asian Aid, I would like to encourage you to go to asianaid.com.au and be a part of it. Be a part of that mission. Get involved. You can help by praying. You can help by donating. Maybe you can even help by joining them in one of these mission trips or these visits to these countries, because the work that they're doing is unbelievable. There are 8 agencies and there are 8 agencies, and Asian Aid is in that latter category. It's absolutely serious work. Dr. John Hammond, thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. I want you to share the story about the time that you found yourself as a hostage. You're listening to The Breakfast Show on Faith FM with Kathy Elliott, producer Shell, and today we have a special guest here with us, Dr. John Hammond, who's sharing with us some amazing experiences about some of his travels to Asia. So, Dr. John, tell us a little bit about that almost being kidnapped story in Asia. Where were you, and what was the occasion?
I was in Bangladesh, heading in a van down south. Bangladesh is a very flat country, and just the city of Dhaka has 20 million people, so it's very crowded. And here we're out in the country, and we got held up by the largest bandit I've ever seen. It was an elephant.
What?
Blocking the road. And I said to my friend who was guiding me, who was a Bangladeshi, I said, "What's happening here?" He said, "We're being held to ransom by an elephant." And
no way.
Anyhow, the window was down, and in came this trunk, and I said, "What do I do now? Kiss it?" He said, "No, he wants money." So I fished in my pocket, and I had a couple of fairly worthless Bangladeshi coins, and I gave it to the elephant, and he flung it off the side of the road.
I'm not interested.
And there was a small kid who pounced on it, and then the trunk came back in again, and he said, "What happens now?" He wants paper money. So I gave him some Bangladeshi notes, and he flung that away. And then came the trunk again. He said he wants some overseas money, preferably US dollars. And so I fished out a $10 Australian note and gave it to him, and he passed it up to his owner sitting on his shoulders, who was managing the whole thing. And away went the snotty trunk, and we kept on going. But when we got up to the school that we were visiting at close to the Burmese border, it is called the Hill Country. It's the only hill country in the whole of Bangladesh, and we had to have 4 policemen in the van with us. So that brought the number to about 12 in the van.
Oh, wow.
And I had to sit in the back. Normally I would be expected to sit in the front, but I had to have a blanket, a heavy blanket over me every time we went through a village. Because if they knew that there was a European going through, I would have been taken captive. And it was a very long, hot day, because we must have gone through 100 villages. It's a highly populated country. And we finally got up to the hill country, and this great blob of sweat, that was me, finally was able to take the blanket off and walk around. And but those people, the children, as boarders, they sang me a welcome song. And they told me that I was handsome, that my breath was like the scent of flowers, and my face was as the most handsome fruit in the trees. And I was thinking I looked more like the rear end of a baboon, but they were singing these beautiful songs because they are so grateful for what Asian Aid does. And there was 300 of them just singing. And then I visited the dormitories, and there was one room about the size of this little studio, which is not terribly big, and there were 15 girls living in it. No privacy. They're teenage girls, and we were raising money to build a dormitory for them.
Build a proper accommodation for them.
And you would join Asian Aid if you saw the gratitude and knowing what we've done. We built a school in Dhaka, 8 stories high, for $1 million that would cost $20 million if it was built
Easy.
in Australia. Labour is very cheap. 8 floors high, full of students and chapels, and goes from preschool through to senior high school. And it is just so heartwarming. I mean, I wonder what I was going to do in my retirement. Asian Aid took care of that. It was just beautiful.
That's amazing. And look, I think that other people that are looking for to join Asian Aid as a volunteer or to join or to help Asian Aid, look, I think that there's different ways you can support Asian Aid's ministry. And it's a ministry of Jesus because they're doing all of that, but because of the love of Jesus, for the love of Jesus, because ultimately they not only want to feed hungry bellies, they don't want to rescue children in difficult situations, but they ultimately want to introduce them a Savior named Jesus Christ that will take them to eternity with them. And this is why I am so grateful for Asian Aid as well. We interview them here every month, and there's various ways to get involved. You can make donations, like you said, like to help to build the infrastructure that's needed. And the money, our Australian money here goes such a long way over there. You can pray for them. There's a lot of, you can go to their website, you can see their projects, you can pray for them, or you can join them as, I think that the most adventurous side of it, just like Dr. John did. You can volunteer and get to know their projects and help out in practical ways as well. This is a wonderful way of contributing.
It's just a wonderful, wonderful God-led organization.
Yeah.
Some charities have been in the spotlight for spending too much money on their own infrastructure, not Asian Aid. We run a very limited budget, but we do the right thing with the money that comes. If it's promised, it goes to where it's promised. The donors can be relaxed because they know that the money is being well spent exactly where they intended it to go.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And all of the offerings, because Asian Aid is a recognized, registered charity in Australia, all of those donations are also tax deductible. So, which is a great bonus as well. A lot of people are asking, hey, what can I direct? So the government will put in a little bit of extra cents there every time that you donate. The government is donating the equivalent of that, of your tax rate, whatever you are in the bracket. 30 cents, 47 cents, 16 cents, whatever you are. It's just such a fantastic organization. Dr. John, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing these incredible stories as well. I never thought that I would see anyone who would have been mugged by an elephant, a professional robbing elephant.